Hey guys, welcome to Cyber Kitty. Today we are going to talk about finding the largest numbers in arrays. So in this particular assignment, we are dealing with 2D arrays. Two-dimensional arrays are like arrays in an array. So you have rows and columns in it, rather if you think of it as a table. So we have four arrays that are passed in a single array to our function, and the goal of this exercise is to find the largest number in each array and return a final single array. That's going to be a single dimensional array with each number that belongs to each of the arrays that have been passed, finding the largest number in there. So I'm going to try and explain a couple of methods here that are applied to arrays to find this. I'm going to make a list of them here. So we're going to talk about map, we're going to talk about sort, and I'm going to try and explain to you how reduce works as well. So let's try and get this assignment done. So let's try here. So we got an array. Initially, this is, let's just say, for example, this is what we got. So the goal or the first step we got to try and do is somehow ensure we apply some logic to each array and get largest number. Okay, that's the first thing that comes to mind is we got to somehow find logic to break this whole array into single arrays that are passed in and get the largest number from each array. In order to do that, I chose to use the map function. We can do it through for loop as well. That's pretty straightforward. I figured using this method would give you a better idea of trying to write a function with less number of lines of code and be able to make it more efficient. So there we go. So what we're going to do first is the map function returns an array. So the output is going to be another array. So in order for that to work out, we're going to first create an array called a variable called, let's just call it temporary, or we can even say final, because that will be the resulting array for us. So what we're going to do is take the array and apply the map function. The way map function works is actually takes the array and applies some sort of logic that we're going to write to that each element in the array and return a new set of elements as an array. So let's just write the callback function. Let's say the passed in variable at one instance is called x. Now we're going to write our logic here. Logic to find largest. Okay, there we go. So there we go. Now let's just assume this only function and forget about the whole two-dimensional array. So now all we are dealing with is one single array, and now we might have to write something to get the maximum um, or the largest value in that array. In order to do this, I'm going to use the sort function. The way sort works is unlike map function, which actually returns a new array, sort actually applies the logic to the given array itself. So rather than actually getting a new output, your actual array itself is modified once you apply the sort method. So now let's write a callback function in sort method, or the logic that we want the sort method to use to get the number that we want. So sort method takes two elements at a time and applies our logic. So let's call those two elements A and B. And let's write up some code here. Okay, so the way sort function works out is if the return value from this function, if it is less than 0, then it makes sure A has the low index than B. If it is equal to 0, then there is no change. And if it is greater than 0, it ensures A has higher index than B. Let's take an example, right? So we got a sort function, and in the callback function of the sort, we gave it A has a value of 5 and B has a value of 10. So if we return, let's say, the difference of A minus B, what this does is it does 5 minus 10. So we got a minus 5, which is less than 0. So what it does, it makes sure A has a lower index than B. Let's just say it's on spot 1 and this is on spot 2. B is on spot 2. they pretty much stay the same because A has a lower index than B. What in turn, by applying the sort function to two elements at a time in the array and doing it over again, what we end up getting is an array with ascending order. So instead, let's say if we reverse this logic and do b minus a instead, what that does is same logic, b minus a, we get 5, which is greater than 0. So it ensures a has a higher index than b. So at this point, it makes sure if b is on spot 2, something higher than spot 2. So that way, what you end up getting is a descending order. I prefer getting the sort function a descending order. That way we know for sure the first element in the resulting array is the highest one rather than having to refine the length of the array and trying to get the last element. It makes a little bit, it makes the whole thing much easier. So let's write b minus a. And now we got the x, which is the initial singled out array in the input. And we sorted it out. We modified it so it's now in a descending order. And all we got to do is return the first element of the array, and there we go. This ensures this. So what this does is ensure map function takes each array, so we got this as an initial input, and now what map does is it just makes sure all these are broken down. So map applies our logic of finding the largest number through sort to each array, and then returns single element from this. So for 4513, you'll get 5. Here you get 27. Here you get 39. And here you get 1001. So all these 4 elements from map function, you get something like this. So this is what we want. This is the whole goal of writing up this function. So once it's done, all you have to do is just write up a return statement returning the final array. So there we go. That's what finding the largest numbers in an array simply put. Perfect. So this is the basic idea of how you can do it. If you really want to make it much simpler, you can try and just do this. Oh, my bad. Not this. You can actually remove this sort function. This is one way of doing things, right? So I'm going to talk about now how to use reduce to get this done. So the way sort function works is we're actually comparing all the elements once and then writing another line to get the first element of that array. So we're going to try and actually condense it more and see if we can write it in less number of lines than that. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is once we get each array, that stays the same. So once we get an each array, rather than sorting the whole function, whole array once and then getting the last element, what reduce does is it actually reduces the whole array into one value depending on what logic you use. So let's just say you can try and write a reduce function. Let's say you want to sum up all the array, all the elements in the array. What you would do is array dot reduce, and then let me just put that up here. There you go. Array dot reduce, and then same like sort function, you would write a callback function, but in here the difference is that it actually takes elements from left to right, 2 at a time. So you would have a previous element and then you would have a current element. So all it is reduce function takes the logic and applies to 2 elements at a time from left to right and condenses the value as per the logic we gave. So what we want to do, if previous is greater than current, we want to return previous, else return current. So what this logic does, it takes 2 elements at a time. So let's say, for example, we take this array. It takes 4 and 5. It says, okay, let's follow this logic. Previous is the 4 and current is 5. So 4 is less than 5. So this statement goes false and you take 5, comes back. And then it does 5 and 1 and then keeps the 5. It does 5. It does, at this point, the previous value till here is 5 because this till here, the logic has already been applied. It takes 5 and applies to 3 and then you get 5. So that's how the logic works for reduced function. So now let's write that up here. So now we got x and we're going to write up reduce and a callback function in there. So previous, current, and then if previous is greater than current, return previous, else return current. There we go. So that pretty much it. So all this does, it reduces it, and then you can actually write a return here. So you all got pretty much everything with one method rather than trying to sort it out first and then get the first element's value. What we're doing is we're just reducing the whole array and just getting the maximum number all at once, and then pretty much returning the value back to the mapping. So once we run it, you could see, there we go, it works. So that's a little bit about how sort and reduce and map method work and how you can use them to find the largest of each number in the four arrays and return an array value. I hope you really enjoyed this video and you got something new to learn. And if you do like my videos, do hit that like button. And if you want to see more of my videos, do subscribe to my channel, Cyborg Kitty. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, my username is cyborgkitty underscore Cyborg Kitty. I just wrote it down here. Well, that's it for today on this video. I'll see you on my next video. Until then, have fun coding. Bye.